I'm just cooking up some of my veggies right now. I've chosen to use some onion, red bell pepper, and carrots, but obviously you can use a bunch of other stuff in here. Celery would be great, mushrooms, even some peas, but this is just what I had on hand, so this is what I'm going to use. And at this point, I'm going to add in my white wine, about a cup of it, and if I had fresh herbs, I would use that as well, but I don't have any fresh herbs. They unfortunately all got root rot, so I'm using dried herbs. I've put in some salt, pepper, poultry seasoning, some cayenne pepper, parsley, and then there's a couple of bay leaves floating around in here as well. And now I'm literally just going to put in the entire chicken carcass in this pot. And yeah, I got this from Costco. It was already like one of those roasted chickens, and as you can see, Eric and I have eaten away most of the breast and thigh meat, but that was a few days ago, so I just want to use up the rest of this before it goes bad. I've tried to take off some of the skin, and I've left, you know, some of the skin on as well for flavor. I've added half chicken stock, half water to the pot because we'll be cooking it for like 2.5 to 3 hours. The chicken itself is going to release a lot of flavor. So if you plan on cooking it for less time, I would suggest adding more chicken stock, less water. But yeah, so I'm just going to bring this up to a boil, and once it starts boiling, I'm going to back the heat down to a simmer and just let it go for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Every once in a while, I'm just going to come in and skim the fat off of it. You don't have to skim the fat off of it, but for me, I don't like my chicken noodle soup that greasy, so I'm just going to skim some of the fat off, and I'll also top it off with some water if I see that the water level is getting too low. So now it's been about 2.5 hours, a little more than 2.5 hours. I'm just going to remove the bones, as many of the bones as possible from the stock. The chicken's like completely fallen apart, but I'm just going to take the meat off with a fork and my fingers if I can, but it's really, really hot. And then I'm just gonna add the meat back to the pot. I'm gonna bring this back up to a boil, and once it starts boiling, I'm just gonna taste it for seasoning and then add in my egg noodles. You can use pasta noodles as well, but I really suggest using egg noodles. If you do decide you want to use pasta noodles, I would recommend that you cook it separately and then add it to your soup when you're ready to eat, because pasta sitting in liquid gets really soggy and completely loses its texture, and egg noodles are really good. You can basically freeze egg noodles in liquid and reheat it as many times as you want, and it'll still be chewy and retain its shape. So yeah, this is the chicken noodle soup. You guys should give it a try and let me know how it goes. It's really simple and a great way to use up your leftover chicken. First things first, we are going to prepare our drumsticks. I have 9 drumsticks here, which I've rinsed off, and I'm just patting dry with a paper towel as much as I can. I'm going to season this with some salt, pepper, paprika, cayenne pepper, and thyme. And then I'm just going to lightly dredge this in some seasoned flour as well. This step is definitely not necessary if you want to make this dish a little healthier or if you don't have enough time, but it does really help with the thickness of the sauce. Now I am just going to fry the drumsticks in my Dutch oven, and while these are frying, I'm going to just prepare some veggies. I'm using some carrots and some green beans and some onions, but mushrooms or peppers or even celery would go really well in this, just whatever you have on hand. After the drumsticks are done frying, I'm just going to remove them. We really just want the outside to get brown and for it just to leave a little flavor in our Dutch oven. So we're not looking to cook this all the way through, but I'm just going to deglaze the pan with some chicken stock and some white wine. And
And then I'm going to add in all the veggies and put the drumsticks on top, and then just cover it with a little bit of stock as well. It doesn't need to completely cover the drumsticks, but we want some sauce.
Alright, so I have just brought this to a boil, and now I'm going to let it go with the lid on for about 30 minutes, and then 15 minutes with the lid off, or until the sauce thickens to your desired consistency. Oh, and I've also decided that I'm just going to add 2 cloves of garlic in, just for some more flavor.
So I've decided to serve this up with some pasta. I think the sauce tastes amazing just on pasta with the drumsticks and the veggies. You don't have to. If you really are feeling up to it, you can actually just boil the sauce down a little more to make it thicker and add some heavy cream. That would taste amazing as well. But I'm just going to pair it with some Brussels sprouts that I've roasted, which I've tossed in some honey and balsamic vinegar.